Hi, everyone. Today we have an amazing episode for Flavors of the Forest, and I am joined today with Jamie Zaya and Rosie Khan of Gen Z for the Trees. Rosie and Jamie, can you introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit more about what Gen Z for the Trees is and what you guys do?
Yeah, my name is Jamie Zaya. I am the palm oil team lead for Gen Z for the Trees.
My name is Rosie, and I'm the team lead for Gen Z for the Trees at Rainforest Partnership. We are the youth branch of the organization, launched on World Rainforest Day, that's June 22nd, 2020. And we're basically a youth-led team of people globally with a vision of net zero deforestation by 2030. Our three pillars are educate, inspire, and change. And that's just focused around helping youth be empowered to learn things that they aren't taught in school, be inspired to have hope about their power to make a difference for the environment, and then teach us how we can take action and change that. And we have a structure where we have different teams that are focused on researching the main commodity drivers of deforestation, or the forest risk commodities that are beef, soya, palm oil, and timber, pulp, and paper. We also have teams for finance, law and policy, and media and outreach.
We have a special guest today, Jose Duarte. And Jose, if you could just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself and what you will be making with us today.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm Jose. I'm the chef owner of Tambo 22 in Chelsea, Massachusetts, and a consultant chef of the Santa Cruz Eco Lodge in the Ancash region of Peru. I have been very involved with sustainability for the last 15, 20 years, always trying to find solutions and alternatives to a better environmental impact from the hospitality industry. And today I'm going to be working with some sustainable source palm oil. I was going to say shortening, it's palm oil. And we're going to make a traditional South American dish, which is the patacon, but I'm going to turn it into a sandwich. And for that, I have picked some plantains. I have a green plantain, and I have a not so green plantain. We call these in South America and Venezuela, they call it pintones, because the black marks start to show in the plantain. And obviously the texture of the product, it's going to be completely different once you cook the plantain. So the greener it is, it's going to be harder. It's going to be a little bit more. It's not going to have a little bit of sweetness on it. And most of the people use that for savory dishes as well when they mix it. And then the texture is also different. It's a little bit more firm. And then this one is going to have a little bit of hint of sweetness, a little softer texture. So we're going to use this one. I think I like this one particularly. If you could find bigger ones, this was kind of an average size, but the wider the circumferences is better, because that will give you a bigger space on your patacon or your fried plantain. So we're going to go ahead and cut a little bit of this, or peel this plantain. Sometimes when they're green, you will not be able to do this because the skin will be attached to the flesh of the center of the plantain. Basically, with this one, it will be very difficult to do. So we'll take that and we'll cut this into pieces about 3 inches, and then that's it. So we're going to split this into 4 like that. You can see there. And we're going to use, I have my famous cast iron pan. You can use any pan. And you can use about a spoon of coconut oil. Palm oil, I'm sorry. I keep confusing coconut with palm. I mean, they're both palms anyway. But so we have the shortening, the palm oil, and over medium heat. What I've noticed on this oil is that the burning point, it's higher than olive oil or the vegetable oil. So really, it holds really well in the pan. It does not emanate any fumes or anything. It's a very, I will say, basic, plain flavor on the oil. So that pan has already a little bit hot. So we're going to put this plantains in there, and we're going to sort of sear them on the side. I'm not sure if you can see, but they're going right there in the pan. And I'm going to raise the heat a little bit. And that will take about 5-6 minutes to get done side to side.
So one of our first question was, what sort of inspired you to sort of be in this space of sustainability working as a chef?
So I will say 10 years ago, 12 years ago, running my business, my former restaurant Taranta that shut down, I wanted to find ways of, the decision to change our business practice was an economic impact decision. So I learned that by saving energy, you can save money. So that was my first thing. So it was a business decision. So I started to look into all these wonderful things that we can do to save money at the beginning, but then the environmental impact that represented. So we basically saw that there was a lot of opportunity for us as a restaurant and for me as a chef to look into all these little things. So Taranta, in a restaurant, we adopted about 45 to 50 environmental changes in our business practice. Every change that we made, we measured, from footprint, economics, and everything. And we had enough data to tell people that if you make these changes, you're not only creating economic impact, but environmental impact is great. We reduce about 80 to 90 metric tons of CO2 a year by composting and recycling. We measure all our energy kilowatt hour consumption. We run vehicles with waste vegetable oil as well. Besides the fact of taking different subjects every year from economic sustainability, chemical use, waste production, and then you go into the social impact part, which is very important, supporting fair trade, supporting the Immokalee Coalition of farm workers in Florida for tomatoes, and learning that really sustainability is not turning the light off or recycling. There's a lot of different components that are part of this daisy flower. And it's an ongoing process, because what we thought it could be sustainable 10 years ago is not anymore. So I've done a lot of different things throughout the years, and that has gotten to be what I'm now. So,
and working as a chef, I guess you see a lot of intersection with the environment as you're talking about sourcing and getting your ingredients. Can you talk a little bit more about sort of how your career as a chef has intersected with the environment? So
we cook food. Food has an origin, whether it's from a greenhouse or from an open field, or whether it's using water that is polluted or not polluted, or whether the product that you're doing is actually creating something detrimental in the process of being harvested, environmentally, but also socially. I mean, we have a lot of cases with wine production, blueberry production, fishing industry. Fishing industry is really crazy. And then you have a lot of other things that are industry related. So for me, the discovery of that option to make my own decisions, whether I buy or I source a I procure sustainably, a product that has been environmentally friendly, it has no hormones, no antibiotics. We have to look at the big picture here. So from discovering that, made me think, well, I can decide what to put in my menu, and I can tell you that I will not serve Coca-Cola in my restaurant or any sugary sodas, because I'm a supporter of the Jocelyn Diabetes Foundation, and I can give you a homemade fruit juice with a little bit of agave or something like that. But so all of these decisions, I had the advantage that I could make that. And it made me research and create connections, create relationships also, relationship with fishermen, relationships with biodynamic organic wine production, relationship with cattle farms, relationships with many other organizations like yours to help the environment. So on. So I have so I flipped while I was talking. I flipped them up, and then they're nice and crispy on one side. And it's interesting because normally when I cook with like butter, or I cook with a lot with olive oil, but here I'm just getting the flavor of the plantain. I'm not getting other senses, no flavor, but the aroma right here. I wish you can feel it there, but it's really unique because it doesn't have any mixture of flavors, rather than using other oils that we use it in there. So once we have this plantain is kind of seared on the top, there's going to be a small process here. I call it the smashing process. But normally they sell these 2 planks of wood that you can press this banana and make it into a flat looking thing like this. In this case, I am going to use, oddly enough, a bottle of olive oil that I found in the counter. And then I am going to just use a little bit of plastic wrap so I don't, let's see if you can see, there you go. So I am going to press the, sort of smash it like that. And then once I smash it, I can put it back into the pan. I think I smashed that too much, but I had 3 espressos this morning, so that's why. And then I can do the other one here, smashing it up with press it with this bottle. And then it looks like that. You see it's all flat. We can put it back into the palm oil. And then another one here with our super duper bottle. This is a nice one, actually. Beautiful. Second, and then we're gonna do another one here. Actually, I found a nice use for this bottle too. So it's like a perfect size around. And this is the last one we use. Okay. So right now we're going to sort of cook both of the sides. And what we're doing right now is we're adding very nice texture to this dish. Now, the reason why we do that pre-fried before is because it's hard for us to smash the plantain when it's raw, because it's going to go all over the place. This way, we have given a little bit of structure to that. So now we can smash it, and then you have kind of like 2 levels in there, and it will hold well while cooking. So I can see already getting it crispy. Let's see if I can flip this up. Yeah, maybe a couple minutes on the side. And then you can do that as a snack as well. That's a perfect snack. You can toast that with a little bit of garlic, and a lot of people use this olive oil and garlic when they mix it as well. But you can, this one was a creative idea for people that are gluten-free, that would like to do something easy at home with some palm oil and creative. This is a great idea for a party to entertain. You can have this little sandwiches. You can also make this, they have a machine that you can make a cup out of it, so you can press it, and it has a sort of a prone part, and then you just push it and you have a little cup. But that one you have to deep fry. You have to use much more oil to. Here we're pan frying it side to side. We're not using abundant oil for it. So, and it's doing a great job. Everything is getting nice and crispy here. And it has a very nice color. If we compare the color, this was made with a real green plantain that I had before. And this one is made with the Pinton one. So I can see a little bit more yellowish, and it's going to be a little bit more sweet as well.
Yeah, I was going to ask, I've made tostones at my house before. They have not looked that pretty, so I'm happy to know the bottle.
You probably didn't use the palm oil and
Yeah.
the bottle. That's probably what happened. So,
Yeah, because they do
um,
not look that good. But what would you say flavor wise? I know you said that with the more yellow ones, they're sweeter. Sometimes I've seen them where they're sort of black, what sort
yeah,
of
so those are not going to work. Those you can fry in slices, or you can bake as a whole stuff with some cheese, but those are not going to work because they're not going to have any structure. So they're going to be too much sugar. It's going to be like a smudge. You can do a puree if you want, but they're not going to work as well as these ones that we have. So pretty much we have the tostones ready. I am going to use little paper towels so we can drain some of this extra oil, and you see they're nice and crispy on the side. One in here, another one. So we have, I'm gonna put a little bit of salt. I always like to put a little bit of salt on these tostones when they come out of the fryer as well. And we can build. This is where the fun part is going to start. Will it work? Yes, it will work. Here it is. So we have two sides, like building a sandwich. You can make it, you can stuff it the way you want it. Particular today, I got some cheddar cheese, a little bit of cheddar, and put some cheddar cheese in here, and just honey baked ham. Just ham and cheese, very simple. Nothing wrong with that. There it is. I also have some prosciutto and provolone. You can do the Italian version of it, or you can do any other stuffing in there as well. I'll cover them up like that. This is what it will look like right now. And I am going to use a panini presser or a toaster, or however you want to call it, a sandwich presser, etc., which is right here. And I am going to put one of them here, and the other one of them here. They're hot already, they're toasted already, but the idea is that I want to melt a little bit that cheese that is inside, so it becomes like a cheese melt somehow. And that's going to take probably about 3 to 4 minutes.
If someone doesn't have one of those pressers at home, is there an alternative that they can use?
You can. I mean, you can have it without pressing it. The reason why I'm doing this is because I want to give it the effect of like a melt sandwich, like a ham and cheese, like a grilled cheese sandwich. But you can do it on a pan if you cover it with low heat, and then you cover the pan. You're going to allow that heat to sort of melt the cheese, because the texture on the patacon, the palm oil has already given it to it while we cook it. So right now we're just trying to add a little bit of that heat to melt the cheese inside. So,
and usually when I have plantains or tostones, I usually have a dipping sauce, some guac on the side. Any other sauces you'd recommend with this?
I mean, you can do many things with it. You can prepare. I mean, in this case, we're doing the sandwich version of it, but I mean, some people love when they're really green with honey. You can just put some honey or some raw sugar cane in there, make it really sweet. I don't know. This might work. Call me crazy, but let's see what this is. So I have this green plantain, which is savory, which is different than the one I have here. And I am going to add some white truffle oil. And I will tell you if it works or not. It smells fantastic. That's really good. I mean, it's different. Who would have known, Nice tostone with the truffle oil in there. All right, so here we go. These guys are already melting. Let's flip them up a little bit. I think my sandwich presser was a little cold, but yeah, that's really good. I should patent this. I did it with yuca the other day, though.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yuca fries with truffle. Ooh. But that's another story. This truffle thing. So, wow.
And yeah, we have another question. What message do you have for youth that's in the culinary field that are interested in sustainability?
I think one of the most important things is that they have to become humble. They really have to understand that they can't be a top chef in one day. They need to go through a process, and that process is the process of learning, process of understanding, and is the process of really engaging in what they want to do. So their future is directly related to the environment. We are going to be responsible for that. So it's part of the team effort. So the more conscious they become when they're sourcing, when they're understanding every product, ask the questions. You need to ask the questions. If you have a provider that is using an outrageous amount of packaging, they say, "Oh, I'm not. Why can't you fix this packaging? This is a problem," or footprints and all that. So they need to become more aware of the importance that they have in their hands. I mean, if they go into the field, they can easily set practices in the workplaces and really make a change. They can make a difference. The problem is that you and I are two people doing this, but we're too many, and many of them are not doing it. But imagine if everybody will do it. So that's the great message that I have for them. That they really have to get engaged and never be afraid of experimenting. And they're gonna fail at the beginning, but as I failed many times trying to run cars with cooking oil, and finally, we got it going. But they can definitely do that. So, all right, these guys are already looking awesome. This looks like almost looks like a sandwich, like a real ham and cheese sandwich. And let's see. We have one of them right here. I am going to attempt to cut them in half, which is going to be a little difficult. I might need a serrated knife so I can see the inside of each of them. Okay. There you go.
Wow.
And of course, I have to try it.
Yeah.
Hot, good.
That looks so good. I've never would have thought to use plantains like that. So, and it's really quick and easy to do it.
Very easy. I mean, it took us what, 15 minutes, 10 minutes? I mean, this is really good. It's really, it can hold, you can probably make the tostones ahead, keep it in the refrigerator, and then with your sandwich, you put them in there and it will heat it up, and the bigger the plantain or the longer you cut it, the wider it's going to be your tostone, and that's it. Pretty much for it.
That's incredible. I'm so jealous. I can't wait to be able to try that.
Really good.
And we just have one last question for you, Jose, for
yes.
The foodies out there, the restaurant goers, as we go back to, going back to restaurants and things like that, how can we know that our food has been sustainably sourced, at those restaurants?
Yeah, that is a very difficult topic, because one of the problems that I encountered is validation. And in certain parts, certifications, in this case, we're dealing with palm oil and all the certifications they can have, but there has been so much greenwash in the industry as well. And right now with information technology, our customers are able to find the answers, whether they're real answers or fake answers, but they can have the information at their hand with their hands. I did a project in 2012 with local fishermen where I developed edible QR codes, and we put it in the plate with squid ink, and the customer could scan the origin of the fish. So it will tell you who caught the fish, when, where, and when was delivered to the restaurant. So we created this real-time traceability to support these local fishermen, and we were buying directly from them. So it was a great initiative. But then we started to realize that other industries, fishing industries as well, started to do this traceability, but you scan the code and it will show you the picture of the fisherman only. So there was no real data of how long, where, and all these different things. So when I questioned some of these guys in the industry privately, they said, well, fish after 3 days is not very good. And I'm like, well, so then what is the purpose of this? And then I really realized that validation was a big problem, because you can create your own network of traceability and manipulate the data with that. And there's really no entity that validates that. At least it wasn't 10 years ago. So one of the things was that, like and the other is the trust, right? We put food in your plates. We're chefs. If we are transparent enough to do enough research and learn about a specific product, for example, my wines are all from small dedicated producers that basically see how the grape that goes in the bottle, because they're passionate about it, and I trust their integrity and how they're procuring and how they're doing the business, from the supply chain from the bottom to how we're treating their workers, and so we look at the big picture, but we want to transfer that to our customers. Unfortunately, it's very difficult for the end user to really find ways of determine if that product is really what they're eating. There isn't really a way for you to have. I can tell you that this fortunately, a lot of the bananas, this is one of the highest carbon footprint item in the world, because the process of moving bananas is crazy, and then how you ripe them and how you storage and stuff like that. So in fact, we tried to do a project with MIT in which we wanted to trace our tomatoes, whether they were from a greenhouse in Maine, from Mexico, or from Florida in the sun. And the variables to determine that footprint were so complicated, because at the end, the Florida one was better because the greenhouse was not heated with renewable energy. So it's complicated, and it's hard for the consumers to really see it at the restaurant level. I think the most important thing is that they can trust, and they can demand, and they can ask questions. You can ask questions because those questions will create that interrogation, that curiosity, whether it's the chef that is running the restaurant, the manager, or the server, is that why is this customer asking me if the palm oil that we use in our patacones is RSO or sustainable. So those questions have to be formulated, because then they will understand that there is an issue with that. No one knew, no one thought there was modern slavery in the fields of Immokalee, Florida, with tomato pickers. No one really thought about it. Even myself, I had to go and see it. And then after that, we tried to help the industry and ask questions and stuff like that. But that's, I think, one of the most important things: ask questions.
Wow. It's a whole interconnected web, it's just from what you were saying, so many different factors come into play. But how would you say is the best way to, support chefs like you? I know you said definitely asking questions and things like that. So how would you say is the best way to support your restaurant and other chefs?
Yeah, I mean, obviously patronage, like whatever we can do, whatever they can do to support our business, especially in these times. That's a whole different subject that we have. We're dealing with many things during COVID, post-COVID, right now, supply chain, we can find a lot of products. I mean, we cannot even substitute products because we can't find the substitution of the products. The price is really high. So supporting those chefs in the restaurants, or sending people along, etc., promoting the chef. I mean, that's basically one of the most important things. And then try to perhaps, if that consumer or that person knows that the chef is doing a really good job with the environment and says, hey, this guy is doing this and he's helping with this and that, maybe you should do it too. So they can go to my Instagram account is at Chef J Duarte. And they can learn a little bit about my travels, my craziness. Right now, I'm trying to do some work with NFC, which is near field connections, and then trying to make your phone get activated by tapping some places. So technology is actually one of the things I really like. And you can see some of the stuff. And then we have Tambo 22 Chelsea, which is the restaurant in Chelsea where feature some strictly Peruvian food. And then I have another restaurant in Norwell, which is Trattoria San Pietro, that's strictly Italian food. And we had Taranta, which is still a virtual concept, which was the Peruvian-Italian blend. And the Santa Cruz Lodge in Peru, which is a social impact project that was done by Taranta Restaurant to help this Andean agricultural community in the Andes. So.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for bringing such innovative recipe for us today. I know it's totally changed the way I'm going to be using plantains from now on. So thank you so much, Jose.
Thank you very much. Anytime.
And now let's talk a little bit more about this RSPO certification. It might be something new for our viewers, but we were able to talk to the Roundtable on Sustainable Palm Oil, and have brought one of their experts, Cameron Plesh, here to talk more about certification and what that means, and how it helps us as consumers to buy sustainably and have that trust in these brands and these companies that what they're doing is putting sustainability at the forefront for these products.
Cameron, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do at RSPO?
Yes, thank you, Rosie, for the introduction. So my name is Cameron Plesh. I am the head of North America for the Roundtable on Sustainable Palm Oil, otherwise known as the RSPO. So what that entails, and we'll get into a little more detail about what the RSPO is, but basically any company that you know of that is based in the US or Canada, I work with them directly on their palm oil policies, their palm oil sourcing, making sure that we can guarantee the products that they're providing to you are coming from sustainably and ethically sourced palm oil that's going into the ingredients, so that when you're buying their products, you can feel comfortable about the contribution that it's made.
Great, awesome. And the main sort of mechanism, I guess, that the RSPO has for this mission is RSPO certification. So we want to ask you, what is RSPO certification? Why is it important? And what does it mean?
Yeah, great question. So the RSPO as a whole, and we started in 2004 with the idea of figuring out what kind of mechanisms and tools we could use to make supply chains a force for good, recognizing, as all of you had brought up, there are a lot of challenges around the palm oil industry. It's a big global issue, one that we can't run away from. So we realized we needed to bring all of the sectors together to come up with these solutions. So in 2004, we started with this effort of bringing everybody together in a democratic way to build these solutions out. And one of those solutions, among the many others that we've created, is a certification mechanism. What that means is we work all the way from the plantation where the oil palm is being produced and grown, all the way to the end product that ultimately reaches the supermarket shelves. And as you mentioned, is in roughly 50% or more of products on the supermarket shelves. So we certify every single person along the supply chain, every actor that is engaging with that product or ingredient that has palm oil in it, making sure that they're following the same rules and guidelines, and making sure that we have that chain of custody intact all the way from the plantation and the fruit to the end product, certifying everybody to the rules and standards that the members themselves have set through this democratic process.
And yeah, and so it must be like a really rigorous process, right? So, and at the end in which we're most concerned on, what is the impact on forests of RSPO certification?
So it does create a very big impact, and it's very important for all of us to be involved, even here being so far removed geographically, also far removed down the supply chain. But why it's important is because the standard that we have for the growers, it's what we call our principles and criteria. It is the main part and one of the main pillars of the RSPO and our certification mechanism. What that entails is that we have farmers growing oil palm required to follow around 164 criteria is what it adds up to. The most important aspects of that is we are a no deforestation standard. So you are not allowed to clear any primary or secondary forest or any forest identified as having high carbon stock value, which essentially means that the forest, the soil, the land in general has an ability to sequester a high amount of carbon. If it is determined that it is of high carbon stock, you cannot clear that if you want to be certified by the RSPO. We also require that you have buffer areas that remain intact and protected from things like water bodies or areas where wildlife pass through, wildlife corridors. We forbid hunting of wildlife. You actually have to protect wildlife on your property. We restrict pesticide use. You're not allowed to use fire to clear land, as you mentioned, is a big important issue and something that can lead to a lot of expanded forest fires and cause a lot of harm beyond plantations. That is also forbidden by the standard that the growers must follow. We also work with the International Labor Organization and the United Nations, UNICEF, for example, to set a lot of the standards around child labor, human rights, and labor rights as well. We do also forbid planting on peatland. So as you mentioned, a very important part of our ecosystem and a very important part for addressing climate change, achieving the Paris Climate Agreement. We do forbid planting on peatland going forward. Historically, there is a lot of plantation already on peatland. So essentially what our standard requires is that once that plantation that's on peatland or once the crops there can no longer produce oil palm, that you actually have to restore that peatland and bring it back and plant no further oil palm on that area. So a lot of very important aspects to our standard that the growers follow. And as we certify through the whole supply chain, and when you buy the product certified by the RSPO, you know that you're contributing to those farmers that are meeting that very rigorous standard and that are ultimately contributing to positive impacts towards achieving the climate goals.
Yeah, and I was happy to hear about the pesticide regulation too, because that's something which, other commodities aren't always regulated on. So palm oil, it's very comprehensive here. And then, as you mentioned a little bit, how does RSPO certification help consumers and shoppers?
Yeah, so this is one that still can be a little bit challenging since, as you know, palm oil can find its way into over 600 ingredients. Not that anybody's trying to be secretive or hiding it in ingredients. It's just, it is a very versatile vegetable oil that from a chemical standpoint can be turned into so many useful things that are in a lot of the products we know and love. And commonly the alternatives are things that are not always better, sometimes even worse, like petroleum byproducts are actually what palm oil can replace. So, or animal fats or coconut oil, which can also be very sustainable, but grows in the exact same places and has a lot of similar challenges. This is what makes it a little challenging for consumers is understanding all of the many ingredients that palm oil can find its way into and making sure you're finding the ones that are sustainable. But to help with that, we do have a trademark that you can look for, and we can share that image with you as well. The trademark is something that will go on products if they are RSPO certified, and they have to go through this rigorous process to make sure they're following all the right rules to be able to use this RSPO trademark on their product. If a company is not using the trademark, you can still find them on our website on rspo.org. You can look up if any of your favorite companies or brands are RSPO members. You can also look to see if they are certified as well, which is a separate step. But being a member is the first step to committing towards all of this. Being certified is how you can guarantee what's actually in your product, where your product is contributing to. But also aside from that, there are some really great NGOs that are grading a lot of these companies and monitoring their progress. There's the WWF has a really great scorecard that they release that grades a lot of companies on how well they're doing and also companies that they think need to be improving. There's also a cell phone app that's here in the US that you could use that's made by the Cheyenne Mountain Zoo. It's called the Sustainable Palm Oil Shopping app, and you can find that whether you're an Apple user or an Android user, it's on all of the marketplaces there. And with that, you can actually scan products and they will tell you how they believe they're doing in a positive way or if they need some improvement, and also give you some good action points of how you can ask your brands to do better.
Yeah, awesome. So yeah, we can find what companies are RSPO certified or just members on the website. And then, as you said, we can look for that like trademark on the packaging and other things. So important to just know what we're looking for. One more question is, how can we get more companies to be members of the RSPO?
Yes, that's to me one of the most important questions, because it is important for us to know how we can support this while we're shopping, how we know which products are contributing to it. But as I know I've discussed with you a lot outside of this event, to me it's great to have that power for the consumer, but also I think it's burdensome to ask for us to carry that responsibility. There's a lot that we're thinking about, a lot of environmental concerns that we want to address that ultimately we do have a lot of power and influence on. But the people who ultimately have the most power and influence are the companies that are responsible for making these products. And we should be able to trust them and know that when we purchase a product in the store, that we're not contributing something negatively, that we can trust the company did the right thing. So what we can do as consumers is we can reach out directly to any companies that we don't find on the RSPO website or don't find through any of these apps. And we can ask them, first of all, do they have a policy for sourcing palm oil or for deforestation for all of their commodities and ingredients? If they don't, we should encourage them to do so. If they're not an RSPO member, we should make sure that we encourage them to join the RSPO as well. We do see that companies listen, especially to youth, when they ask these questions. We've seen a lot of, or myself included with my job, I've seen CEOs even come to me asking why they're getting so many letters from youth or questions from youth about these issues and what can they do to make sure they're doing better. So it does have a much bigger impact than you might think. If you reach out to your favorite brands and companies, ask them why they're not doing better, or if they are doing a lot of this and doing the great work, to thank them for it, because that's another thing that they love to be able to see. And it helps to push them further when you say you're doing great, but let's go further.
Yeah, that's great to hear. And yeah, I think it helps to think of it that way. Like, remember, there are just other human beings behind these corporate names and logos. And because palm oil is everywhere, whether we're into like makeup or food or anything like that, there is something that we can all do to be pushing our like favorite brands towards doing better on palm oil.
Exactly. They want us to trust them. They want us to support them. And if we give them that reward every once in a while and say, we're thankful what you're doing, they do appreciate it. But we also need to remind them that they need to earn our trust and they need to be doing the right thing. So definitely encourage everybody to reach out to all of your favorite brands and companies and let them know that you are paying attention and that you're not just going to support them no matter what, that they do need to earn it.
Yeah, great. Yeah, and to have education and action go hand in hand is kind of what we're all about. So okay, yeah, with that, that'll wrap up this interview portion. Thank you so much, Cameron, for your time and your expertise and insights. And we'll turn it back over to Leah.
Thank you, Rosie. And thank you for everybody at Z for Trees and everything that you're doing. Really appreciate all your work.
Yeah, thank you.
Let's hop back to Gen Z for the Trees. I know that this has been a huge project that you guys have been working on, at least for the past year now. Can you tell us a little bit about your work with sustainable palm oil?
So when Gen Z for the Trees was just getting sort of like off the ground in late 2020 in the autumn, we wanted to familiarize ourselves with the palm oil industry and really understand who the major players were in this industry. So we started looking up a lot of news articles, actually, is where we took off from that as our launching point, and then starting to familiarize ourselves with the names of big companies that are palm oil traders, palm oil growers, conglomerates, and so on. And then while we were doing that, we started visiting their websites and looking at, do they have any web pages where they talk about palm oil and whether they do anything to make it more sustainable. On some of those web pages, we found little links where they would say, you can view our published mill list here. And so we started looking at these published mill lists and gathered them from a few different major companies. I think we got 6 to start with. These include Cargill, Olenex, Unilever, Simon Darby, Wilmar, and I'm forgetting the 6th one. But these published mill lists are in PDF format, which was a little strange for tables to be in a PDF format. But we're going to walk you through the whole saga of how we did this like kind of data-driven project. So after we collected these different published mill lists, we converted them into Excel files, cleaned up the columns, and then I handed over these spreadsheets to Jamie, who is our GIS expert, and then she plugged them into ArcMap. and mapped all of these different mills, because in the spreadsheets, they give you the name of the palm oil mill, the name of the parent company, and then the longitude, latitude coordinates of the mill, as well as whether or not it's RSPO certified and what its UML ID number is. So let me talk for a moment about what a UML ID is. UML stands for the Universal Mill List. And this is a list or a centralized database of all the palm oil mills that exist in the world. However, it's a work in progress. It's not fully universal yet. It's created by Global Forest Watch, which is a big mapping platform that's run by the World Resources Institute. And they have a lot of different data sets for everything from tree cover loss to outbreaks of fire to palm oil mills and oil and gas concessions and all these kinds of things. And so looking at the UML, if a palm oil mill doesn't have an ID number, it means that it hasn't been added to it yet, or that it, for some reason or another, the companies compiling their own mills list for this published mill list didn't know what the UML ID number was. So after Jamie mapped over 5,000 palm oil mills from these different companies put together, we identified that roughly 300 mills of these several thousand didn't have a UML ID number. It either said 0 or NA, like not applicable. And we thought that was really strange, because if it's a universal mill list, there should be identifications attached to every mill. So we reached out to Global Forest Watch and sent this data to them. And we met with one of their global engagement managers to discuss this data that we had found. Their team kind of looked through it, and then they got back to us and let us know that 187 of those mills was actually duplicates, meaning that they are on the universal mill list, and there was just one attribute that was off, or for some reason the companies didn't know what the proper ID was. So that allows us to get back to the companies and tell them, we don't know why you didn't know what the UML ID number for these mills are, but this is what they are. And then some of the other ones had other issues with them, but 31 mills, which we provided in that set of about 300 to the Global Forest Watch team, were new mills, which they had never mapped before and which needed to be added to the UML. So working with our contact at Global Forest Watch, they basically are doing one more round of review, and there are going to be 31 new mills added to the UML. And the reason that's significant is that on Global Forest Watch, that platform I had mentioned, they have a lot of different layers you can toggle on and off on their map. And they have a layer for palm oil mills, but it's just one layer, and all that data comes from the UML. So if there's any palm oil mill in the world that's not on the UML, then it's not going to show up on Global Forest Watch's map. And the reason why that's significant is because, and let's go into a bit of the material science on palm oil and the way it's processed, is that the palm oil fruits need to be processed when they're fresh. So they can't, be harvested and wait for like 4 days and then you crush them and extract the oil. They have to be fresh, which means that the plantation and the mill can't be more than like 1 day's truck drive apart, which means that there's a radius around every palm oil mill effectively, or plantation. It's about 30 miles or 50 kilometers. And it means that those plantations and mills have to be connected. So whenever there's an outbreak of deforestation or fires happening somewhere on the map, and that can be tracked with satellite data from Global Forest Watch, it's really challenging to know like who exactly is sourcing from a plantation, especially if they're smallholders, like household scale farming, because they could be selling their palm oil fruits to so many different like buyers. But palm oil mills have a lot more like traceability involved. And so if there's deforestation or fire happening, but the palm oil mill that actually exists isn't on the UML, then there's a pin on the map which should be there, but it's not there. And if it's not there, then that mill is unaccountable, and you can't track, you can't hold anyone accountable for any deforestation or fire that's going on connected to a plantation which is supplying that mill. So the fact that we just uncovered these 31 mills which needed to be added to the UML allows them to put 31 new like pins on the map, which will allow there to be more transparency and traceability and accountability in the palm oil industry. With that, that's a lot of detail going into this, but we're really proud of this project, and it goes to show that anyone can make a difference, because we, during this all virtually, digitally, kind of remotely, just, some youth with laptops, access to the internet, and some data cleaning and mapping tools. So it's all about sort of educating ourselves and then putting to use our passion for this issue. And yeah, with that, we just want to remind viewers that Chef Jose used RSPO certified shortening in his recipe, which he made for you all. And the reason that's significant is because all of the issues that we've kind of been alluding to with unsustainable palm oil, like deforestation, planting on peatlands that releases so much carbon and emissions, and fires that are either wildfires or intentionally set and things like that, are basically things that are forbidden under like the RSPO certification process. And so with that, I will hand it over to Jamie to tell you more about how we as consumers who are just buying palm oil and don't have anything to do with the production side of it all the way upstream can try to contribute to more sustainable palm oil. Because producing palm oil sustainably is not super easy, because if it were, everyone would do it. And so there's sort of barrier to entry and a lot of costs for especially smaller farmers to do things that are everything they need to do to get that certification. And so on the consumer side, we need to support them with more demand for sustainable palm oil and be willing to, you know, pay a few extra cents here and there to ensure that we're supporting sustainable palm oil as a specific choice. And not boycotting it wholesale, but also not, disengaging from the issue completely. So take it away, Jamie.
Yeah, thank you, Rosie. Great job. That was amazing explanation, beautifully told. And like she said, we have a responsibility as a consumer because we are part of the supply chain, right? Like it starts from the ground with this plant being grown and it ends up on our plates and our food. And that is, even though it's so far removed from that first step, we are still a part of it. And creating that demand for the sustainable palm oil is the way markets shift and the way we can create a more sustainable environment for palm oil and for many other things. So the way that we can be conscious consumers is by looking for those labels on the packaging. They clearly have a nice little picture of a palm oil tree that says RSPO certified. It's very easy to find. You can always look up the RSPO website and find out what brands are certified and what you commonly buy, what kind of items. It is a little bit more effort, but it makes it so much more worth it because you know that you're buying products that were made with sustainable palm oil that weren't contributing to deforestation, the loss of habitat. So it's all overwhelming. We've talked about a lot, and it's very, very, very complicated. And we've been spending this past year doing these research projects, and we still haven't. There's still so much to uncover and talk about and do. But we're all trying our best, and just a little bit of effort of looking for that label or looking up ahead of time before you go to the grocery store, which products are RSPO certified, makes such a big difference. And it's the way we can vote on how our planet is being taken care of with our money, with our dollars. So we don't want to do the rash things of saying don't want to buy palm oil, don't want, like Rosie said, there are other ways. We have the sustainable options available to us. It's just a matter of finding them. So it's completely in all of our scopes, even though it does seem scary. So it brings it back home a little bit. We are okay. We can do this. It is completely possible. And we believe in you. Thank you so much.
We have seen rainforests burning and fields of ash replace thriving ecosystems. We have seen civilians forced to flee their homes and outspoken journalists killed in the interest of corporate profit. We know the problem. Now we must be the solution. The Earth loses rainforest at a rate of 40 football fields a minute. But through collaboration and collective action, we will fight to make that number zero. How? By educating ourselves, reaching out to leaders who will listen, joining local movements, and putting pressure where it's needed. A lot of us feel like we can't do anything and have no hope, but Gen Z for the Trees is creating a way to let us rewrite that narrative. A rainforest is diverse, and so is Gen Z. We should use our collective power to take things into our own hands. Follow us, sign up today, and be a part of the movement that makes things right. Let's change the game. We are Generation Z. Deforestation ends with us.